Hey, look, I'm on time for once. Welcome to another live stream edition of the Afternoon Idol. In British terms, this would be our penultimate Afternoon Idol, meaning that Friday will be our last at this time slot for now. Tomorrow, I'll have a survey that'll be down in the description, and I'll try to share it as well about what times might work for folks. So again, I'm starting a new job in early February, so I'm not going to be able to meet at this time until I have a better understanding about where the flexibility within my schedule at the new job is going to be. And I can at least right now know from the offer paperwork that there's Eastern time hours that I'm in essence available and in need, so they conflict with this time right now. But if I can get a consistent lunchtime, then we could do this at lunch and maybe just shorten it to 10 minutes, stuff like that. So there's a future. As someone pointed out, I'm not trying to break up with the folks that have been coming regularly. It's just to take this new opportunity. Oh yeah, thank you very much, Sarah. To take this new opportunity, I know that I'm going to have to reset this. So, and then as an aside, there's been sort of some discussion about in the past about maybe doing like a virtual sitting group that would be sort of a affiliated or spin-off from sort of the CEC model. So that's another possibility too. Maybe not in February, but maybe in March. So just as an aside, and I'll offer that. So talking like everybody knows me, but you may not know who I am. I'm a meditation coach in the Unified Mindfulness System. You can find out more about at unifiedmindfulness.com. I am many things in life, but I am not a licensed mental health professional, nor am I a therapist. And I am not authorized to teach in any Zen lineage or tradition. But I'm a practitioner of a little over 10 years now, maybe close to somewhere in the 11 maybe range. I don't remember. And and so I kind of am embodying this sort of coach position at the moment, which I like a little less, or a little more appropriate, I think, to the way that I can contribute to someone's practice. So what do we do here? What we normally do, as the pun would suggest, is we do a bit of idling, or sort of taking a pause in a given day. And what we're looking at is doing sits where we contrast doing something with doing nothing, and then a nod to Jill, who usually is on often. On Thursdays, we switch things up. And so we'll do our contrast sit as we do normally, but we'll start out with doing nothing, and then we'll do our technique, our sort of more efforting technique, at the end of the sit. We sit 15 minutes, and you get about 6 minutes in each of those, with a 3-minute sort of settling in period. Our technique today will be feel rest. So feel rest and then sort of here out or here gone are probably the two techniques that I do the most of that aren't do nothing. So my Soto Zen practice is just sitting, or shikantaza, also referred to as zazen, and that has a very similar flavor, perhaps maybe not one-to-one, but maybe it has a very similar flavor to do nothing, which is this more sort of open presence, choiceless awareness is, I believe, what Krishnamurti used to describe it. And so of the techniques, though, feel rest and say here out or here gone. Here gone, I think, is technically considered a special exercise in Those are the techniques that I use most often. And so we'll play around today with this feel rest. You're always welcome to do your own technique. Just offer that as an aside. With feel rest today, I want to highlight at the end, so I'll offer prompts about generating rest. So there's this notion that you'll see in some of the neuroscience labs, or they're looking for sort of short interventions. And there's just this idea of there being a sort of positive physiological sigh. So if you do a double inhale where you breathe in, so you do this double inhale and then in a sort of extended exhale, that sort of positive, sort of almost like a relief sigh, like not a like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this, like teenage or tween sigh, but or like the stick in the mud sort of thing, which I'm guilty of, as my my significant other will attest. But it's the positive side of that sigh, like kind of that like it's the relief sigh. So the move for this, one way to play around, double inhale. So you inhale, and then you inhale again, and then you exhale. And so in the Huberman lab at Stanford, Dr. Andrew Huberman's lab, they, I think, refer to this as a physiological sigh. So it's this double inhale and then an extended exhale. And the extended exhale is a lot like that downward action that Jeff Warren talks a lot about. So playing around with generating rest. So a lot of times we're just like, hey, if rest's there, then we'll note it. But in this situation, looking at maybe producing a sort of active side of looking at that. If that doesn't work, we'll offer a few prompts around other things that could work. And again, it's an experiment. So if it doesn't, you're going to be able to just sort of be with the body, and that will train that equanimity aspect. Very much like your ability to be with a friend. And, you know, in essence, you don't have to do anything to be with your friend. Your presence is sort of that aspect. So in feel rest, if there's no rest, we're just in essence sort of being with ourselves, like in this moment. 1 second, I'll check on this. Or actually, I'll check on that, but over here. Yeah, yeah, Sarah, I think you're heading in the right direction with that. I think so. So a lot of the non-dual teachers will talk about sort of awareness is always there, and I've been playing around with this idea that like you already are aware, or I've been reading Relax and Be Aware, I think is what it's called, and it's Sayadaw Utejaniya, who I believe is Alexis Santos's root teacher, and also someone that is an influence of Jeff Warren's. And the notion there is about the awareness is present, and so in what you may be reporting is that there's enough sort of a background agitation that it pulls you away from the awareness, maybe. I don't know. That's a real good point. But yeah, even there's a delight in the ability to be in contact with something, and then but light enough or less effort enough that it's not drawing away energy. So it's not like this like sort of phantom energy draw off of you, which the daily trip maybe a week and a half ago, Jeff did something about these phantom energy vampires. So but yeah, and Angie's right. The book is like 120 pages, and I think like 60 of those pages are guided meditations, which I've been playing around with, recording myself doing the Utejaniya guidance for myself. Don't tell them that, because I don't think, intellectual property wise, I don't think that's something, but I can do it for myself. So. Okay, so but very, very interesting observation, Sarah. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so just in case, I think I did see someone join. So what we're doing today, again, contrasts it like normal, but we're going to do our do nothing at the front, and then we're going to do a feel rest at the end. And the twist for today is this notion of trying to generate rest through a physiological side, this idea of inhale, and then exhale. And that's a little bit of that action. We've been playing around, or I've been trying to play around with this idea of generating different feelings from a little bit of movement, where we talked about stretch up and settle in as ability to reset. So that's a little bit of the theme. And I'm way behind what I thought I'd be, but thank you for your patience. Let's do this. All right. So as we usually do, we adopt a posture that helps us be both relaxed and alert. Not too rigid, or sitting in a way that we don't need a huge amount of effort to maintain the posture. And as we begin, just checking in to see if there's any tension. Each of us holds tension in the body in different places. You'll know where that is better than I. And as we check in and bring a bit of awareness, there's the possibility that the tension will soften or melt. And if it doesn't, it's our first opportunity to bring a no big deal quality to our sit today. Important aspect of lightness in practice. And then as we begin, just do conscious, deliberate breaths, helping to cue our nervous systems to the fact that we can shift into a rest relaxation mode. As always, slow and low is our ideal tempo. Breathing in through the nose helps us to fill the lower portion of the lungs, and extending and accentuating the exhale allows us to settle in with each breath. And for some, they like to be right here. So consider this a waypoint. You can always come back to the simple, bare bones, econo perspective of just sitting and being. And to begin, we'll out with no technique, with allowing whatever happens to happen. And letting go of any orchestration or control of our attention. And the difference between our waypoint that I just mentioned and where we are now is, in our waypoint, we're lightly observing that we're here and we're being. So in do nothing, we're letting go of that monitoring quality, and allowing our attention to be free range and roam wherever it wants. So explore do nothing. Good. So we'll adopt our feel rest technique. And before we do, just checking in with the body and seeing if there's rest available. So for me, I've been able to be still, and there's a sense of rest available around my shoulders and along each side of my spine on my back, and a sense of rest in my lower legs. Now, that rest may shift and go away or remain. Again, no big deal, no attachment to that. As we start out, just seeing if there is any rest in the body. Feel has a inner and outer dimension, so the outer would be the physical body, which is what I was describing. Could also have rest in feel in the emotional body. If rest isn't available, then our experiment today is to see if we can create it. So trying this physiological sigh maybe as a first option. The double inhale, breathing in, then breathing in again, and letting out a long exhale, seeing if there's any rest around that. What may be available, but not guaranteed, is a feeling of the torso extending up and then settling back down. And in the settling, you may find rest around the shoulders, the rib cage, maybe the back. Or if you're able to belly breathe, you may notice a restful sensation around the diaphragm or in the belly. Again, along the ribs as you breathe. And if none of these are available, again, not a problem. Offering no big deal. If rest's not here, the body is. So you can always note and soak your attention into the body. If you're feeling frustrated around the absence of rest, you may want to focus on your feet on the floor. And our pattern, as always, when we're using a noting technique, we're noting the sensation within our focus range, soaking our attention in, and optionally labeling. Our two labels are feel and rest. Keep going. As we wind down our sit, just as another experiment, if you have been able to contact rest, or you currently have a sensation of rest, see how much of that you can bring into our closing conversation and into your remaining part of your day. Just checking that out. Inviting you to reconnect to your surroundings at your own time. Again, playing around with seeing if you can remain partly in contact with rest in the background. In unified mindfulness, we call this background practice. And then opening your eyes if they've been closed at your own time. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for spending 27 minutes with me. Thank you for getting to your seat or wherever you were able to practice. I'm always curious too. I have been probably in the last 6 months laying down while I meditate more often, just to try to avoid the wear and tear on my knees. And I think I partly started doing that around the Summer Sanity Challenge because Sebene Selassie said she basically meditates lying down most of the time. For some reason, I felt like that gave me permission to try it more. I don't know why. I wasn't trying to be some sort of Zen hard ass or anything, which I have done in my practice a lot. Oh, that's great to hear, Angie. So the analogy I like to play around with is background practice is one of these things where you can't multitask, but you'll hear people talk about how you can kind of duo task, meaning that you can have kind of a soft foreground spotlight attention with a bit of sort of the lantern wide angle. And that allows you to kind of have almost like the idea in a computer where there's a background process running. So you see the browser or whatever you're watching the video on, but there are background processes. And we can, in life practice and with at least from a philosophy of kind of maximizing your meditation mileage, of bringing the techniques with you into daily life, we can begin to play around with having some small percentage aware of if there's any rest in the body while we're kind of going about our day. As Shinzen says, while we're bopping around the world, I think, or something like that. But the life practice qualities have been remarkably helpful for me for So, I had a pretty structured formal practice as far as the Zen world would be, but it was the cross training of that was remarkably beneficial for me. So. Okay. Question from Sarah. Is it possible to feel rest when you feel really tired? Yes, it is. You may also, when you feel really tired, you may also feel a bit of sensations that are almost like a flow quality. So, as well. So there's a bit of a changing quality to that. And in speak, there's a slight distinction between those two things, but yeah, so feeling in the tired quality, you can think of we're aiming for this balance of relaxed and alert. And so when we get really relaxed and we get really far on the restful side, that may mean that we feel less alert. And so if we think about the basic meditative quality, we would say is this seeming paradox of being both relaxed and alert. And so it's this sort of balancing kind of a thing. And as we get more and more restful, we may get less and less alert. And so we may find there's a correlation to high feelings of rest towards the fact that you're getting sleepy. So just as an aside, um, sleep is awesome. So I'm always a promoter of sleep. So if you fall asleep, I don't think that's a huge deal. But if you are intent on not falling asleep during practice, there's a few things you can do. One is to open your eyes. Open your eyes, drop your gaze down if you have distracting environment, but open your eyes. The other is to switch to spoken labels. If you're in a place that you can do that. So since a lot of us are practicing at home and we're in an environment where we could speak our labels out loud, you can switch to spoken labels. And then if you're really, really trying to stay awake, you can increase kind of the intensity of how loud you're speaking your labels. So that's referred to, Shinzen will offer that as what he refers to as strongly spoken labels. That's a balance point in my opinion, because then you get a little bit, you're kind of out of your equanimity, or you could be out of your equanimity. Yeah. Shinzen says it's an option, so it must be viable. So I trust Shinzen on that. But those would be, so eyes open is one helpful thing, and then speaking the labels out loud is another. And then one that you will see in communal retreat settings is to stand. And so when I did retreats with Shinzen, you'd see people that would kind of bow and very mindfully get up from their seat, and then they would stand until the bell was rung for that period, but they would do standing meditation. So that's an option as well. I haven't done a lot of videos and things about this, but I'm always very intrigued about standing meditation. It seems to have more practice in the Taoist situation, or as far as wisdom traditions. You don't see a ton of it in a lot of the Buddhist side of the wisdom traditions. So hopefully that helps. Maybe short answer is yes. Sorry, Sarah. And it is past the bottom of the hour. I know a lot of you have to be off to the next things. But thank you again. And tomorrow will be Friday. It'll be the friendliness practice. And then I'll have a survey for you on that as well. Always welcome to reach out to me on Instagram. My handle on Instagram is Leonards, Lenards. D as in Delta, S as in Sam. And yeah, have a great Thursday.